Hey guys, it's been a while, and in fact I went and looked it up before recording this. It's been since July of 2021 since I last made a video. By myself, I have been pretty regular doing videos with Gretchen, doing our Betwixt content every other Friday, for the most part, with some snags in the middle for different reasons. But I haven't made a solo video, and if you're wondering, like, why that is, I went back to working full-time after having had COVID, in July of 2021, and it kind of sucked all of my life force out of me, and then I spent the rest of my free time realizing that I can only really do two extracurricular activities. So I can listen to podcasts and read, I can write and watch YouTube videos, I can make videos and read, I can make videos and listen to podcasts. Like, I can only do one or two things with my spare time. I can't have all of my hobbies at the same time. And that means that just for whatever reason, my ADHD brain didn't want to make videos last year, for the most part. Sorry. I was reading things, and I have content, I just didn't want to make videos. My brain wanted other things for the serotonin and the dopamine. So, I'm sorry, but I'm back. I'm gonna be doing a video that probably should have come out in January, which is, a bunch of my 5-star reads from last year, as well as my, lowest rated book ever, of all time ever. I'm gonna save that one for last, because I feel like most people like listening to people rant about things that they hate. So I'm gonna do the positive stuff first, and then we will end on the terrible note of the bad book. But, here we go. My first 5-star read of last year is actually that last video that I made before going dark, and that is The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. This is a horror book. It is one of, like, 3 or 4 of Grady Hendrix's that I have read at this point. It is my favorite of his, super fun. I read an arc of this last spring, like months before the book came out, and then spent months without being able to talk to anybody about it because nobody else had access to it, and that was a bad choice on my part, but clearly also a good choice because it was one of my favorite books of the year. If you know Grady Hendrix from, the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, I read that the year before and rated it like 3.5 stars. So marked improvement, but also I find the pacing of this much better, and also if you are like an old school horror movie fan, you'll love this, because obviously it's all of these Easter eggs that you can find in there about those movies, like the classic 80s and 70s horror movies. It has all of the camp and the fun of those things, but it's been updated to the modern era in a really interesting way, I think. I have a whole review of that you can go listen to and have it in more detail, but yes, this was 5 stars. The only horror book on this list, and the last one that I actually talked about on the channel. The next one I did not talk about on the channel, and is surprising if you know me and my reading, and that is Red Comet by Heather Clark. This is a biography. It is huge. I read it last year when I was judging for the BookTube prize. I opted, when I was saying that I was going to be a judge for the BookTube prize, to say either fiction or nonfiction, because I do read both. I slightly regret this, because when I read nonfiction, it's very far and spread out, and also I'm very picky about the nonfiction that I like, and I think part of the reason why I fell off on videos was because I had to cram in like 6 nonfiction books, half of which are not really genres I enjoy reading very much, into like a month-long period of time. But out of that whole experience, I did get a 5-star read. I do read, for the most part, biographies, I think, when I do nonfiction. Like, the nonfiction that I remember really enjoying and reading over the past couple of years is either science or true crime, I guess. Science, true crime, and biography. This is obviously a biography of Sylvia Plath. It has a bunch of primary sources, including letters, and some secondary sources with interviews with some people in her life. It also takes a different stance, because most of the biographies about Sylvia Plath before this one were, like, looking at the trajectory of her life, knowing that she commits suicide relatively young, and sort of viewing everything that she did up to that point as like a precursor to her horrible suicide, her depression, all of that stuff. This one has more of a like optimistic view of looking at like the young genius that she was. So if you want to see sort of a different side of Sylvia Plath, or maybe get a different view, a different perspective of her life, this is a really great one. I know it's long. I read it on audio actually first. I borrowed it from the library. That was a great experience. So if you are worried about something this big, audio I would recommend. I then obviously went out and bought a hardcover copy because I loved it so much. But yes, highly recommended. The next 5-star read is not entirely encompassed in this, but it is Olympus by Rachel Smythe? Smythe? I'm gonna say Smythe. It's with a Y. This is obviously volume 1. Volume 2, I believe, is coming out very soon, so if you want to read them in the graphic novel form, it's a good time to pick them up, because you get 2 volumes for 1. It is also a webcomic on Webtoon, I believe, so if you read this and are like me and loved it so much that you need to just binge the rest of it, you can also do that. I do think that I preferred the reading experience when I could binge it, to me now having to wait every single week for, like, crumbs of delicious story. Like, I do recommend reading them in graphic novel form, so if you have patience and can wait for them to come out this way, I think that it might be a better experience overall. Not that I am disliking reading them weekly, but I feel like I enjoyed it more when I was able to, like, read a complete arc all together at once. Also, I have no problem rereading these sections. I'm gonna pick up volume 2 and probably reread through it because it is so great of a story. If you didn't know, this is a Hades and Persephone retelling. It's obviously really beautiful. They use color to sort of represent the different powers that characters have in different relationships with each other. And it is the slowest slow burn romance. So of the other 2 Hades and Persephone retellings that Gretchen and I both read last year as well, this one is the least spicy. 0 spice, but it has all of the feels. So it's my favorite adaptation out of all of the ones that I've read, and I highly recommend it, especially if you like Hades and Persephone retellings, but also even if you don't read a lot of comics, this might be a good one to pick up, because I feel like it's accessible to people who don't necessarily read comics, because it was a webcomic. It's a little bit faster paced and smaller bites, less literary when it comes to graphic novels. In the same vein, the next 5-star read is Electric Idol by Katie Robert. There is also a full review of this on our channel that Gretchen and I did as a joint review. We both read the arc of this, and obviously I also got a physical copy. I have since subscribed to Katie Roberts' Patreon, so I have a signed copy, and there's spicy art at the front of mine that's sort of tucked in here that I'm not going to show you because of YouTube. But that's one of the benefits of subscribing to Katie Roberts' Patreon, is that you can get some spicy art cards of the characters in her books. I loved this. I was okay with Neon Gods, but I, like, fully loved this. Since reading it, I think I've read it 3 or 4 times all the way through. I have the physical copy, and I have a e-copy that's on my phone, so sometimes I just go back and read the scenes that I really love. This is Eros and Psyche retelling. Eros is a himbo cinnamon bun who I love very much, and Psyche is a very smart, snappy social media influencer. So, if you like romances or retellings and you want something sweet, it's a very cute, very quick, fast, fake marriage trope. So I don't know if you're interested in it. It's my mom told me I should kill you, but I'm gonna marry you instead. There's the plot. Enjoy. If you want more details on this one, again, there is a full review from Gretchen and I where we talk about this in detail. Go watch that video. The last pick does also have a video, because I made Gretchen read this after I read it and really loved it. However, unlike with the last pick, where we both really enjoyed it, Gretchen, didn't hate, but was not a fan. Let's go with not a fan of this one. And that is Yours Insatiably by Aveda Vice, which is monster romance. So, by no means am I gonna recommend this to every single person out there. I don't think this is a good pick for everybody. It was definitely a good pick for me. In that review, I said that I think it would be a good pick for people who are queer, people who are neurodivergent, especially people with ASD, even ADHD like myself. I saw myself represented there. But we get a moth fairy and a succubus romance, workplace can't actually date because of workplace rules, sort of enemies to lovers type thing, or workplace enemies to lovers. So if you like those tropes and want a weird monster romance, I can recommend this one. Caution, I will give you that. There's some triggers and stuff, and all of that is going to be represented in the video that Gretchen and I did where we both talked about it. And you can hear why she didn't like it and why I really loved it in that one. Okay, if you've made it this far, we're going to talk about my least favorite read of last year, which I think is also my least favorite read of all time, and that is Serotonin by Michel Houellebecq. And if you want to hear me talk somewhat in detail about this, I read this as a panelist for Literary Gladiator, so I talked about it with Josh and a couple other folks on his channel. I will link that video as well, so you can go and watch us all talk about it. Luckily, everybody hated it. I absolutely hate this. 0 stars. If I could give it negative stars, I would. The only book that I could ever condone burning is this one. I'm sad that I own it, and I may give it away, because I don't want to have it on my shelves, but I still have it at the moment. This is a extremely depressing book about an extremely depressed man who is horrible and terrible, and I hated every single second of it. It's boring, it's pointless, and it's, like, unnecessarily nihilistic. There's violence that doesn't need to be in there, and is relatively traumatic. I wouldn't recommend it. If you see this book, run. If somebody ever says they like this book, run faster. Because the only people who I think would like this book are possibly dangerous, possibly neo-Nazis, or very repressed white men. I'm just gonna go with that. Don't read this book. Don't buy this book. Don't look at this book if you don't have to. That's it. That's all. That's my thoughts on that. I hope that you enjoyed. I don't think this was an extremely long video, but I also am mildly anxious because it has been so long since I have filmed. So I hope you enjoyed the little bits and pieces that I gave you, and I do have ideas for upcoming videos, some of which I talked about with Gretchen before filming this one because I couldn't decide what I wanted to talk about in this video, and also other things because I'm currently reading things that I think I could do videos about. But obviously, it's much easier for me to film when I have Gretchen to talk to. I feel a little bit more comfortable, and I feel like my energy is better. So yeah, if you want to see more of me, look for the Betwixt content, because I'm definitely there way more consistently than I am just on my own talking to you. I'm sure that you much prefer all of Gretchen's great romance reviews and her very informative and necessary history discussions. Go watch her stuff is what I'm saying. I will talk to you again soon. Bye.